Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our webinar, Speeding Up Automotive Dealerships' Most Common Document-Intensive Processes. My name is Nick Vergara. I'm the marketing specialist here at Square 9. I'm here today with our Director of Digital Transformation Strategies, Keith Snyder, who will guide us through this webinar and how sales departments and service departments can benefit from a solution. So before we get started, this is being recorded and we will share the recording with you after. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them through the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the Zoom platform, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. So with all that said, I will kick it over to Keith and we'll get started.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate the introduction. Everybody, welcome to this presentation. This should take about half an hour of your time today. I hope you find this very informative. You'll note that I won't be one of the ones that reads the slide to you. So I'll be talking about something and showing you something else at the same time. But if you want this slide deck afterwards, just reach out to your Square 9 contact. We can make that happen. I'm going to go ahead and drop off video because you're here to see content. You're not here to see my pretty face. And we just don't need the video there as a distraction. So let's go ahead and get started. Like Nick said, we're going to focus in on really solving a lot of document-intensive issues that we find at car dealerships and light truck dealerships. And when we say light truck, by the way, we're talking about freight trucks. 18-wheelers is what we call them in Ohio, right? The Kenworths or the Peterbilts rolling down the road. Car dealerships we're focused on are people like Downtown Ford, right, or Progressive Chevrolet, to name a few that are near me. So it's branded dealerships that have their own service department, and they got a big manufacturer's logo on the building like Honda or BMW or GMC or something like that, right? So that's our focus today, is those dealerships. The agenda, click next. The agenda is pretty straightforward. So to dig a bit deeper, we're going to share with you what we found at many of these auto dealerships, as well as some statistics that we found from the industry. We'll talk about our solution to many of those problems while not putting more work on your staff. They have enough to do, right? Along the way, as Nick mentioned, you hopefully will have questions. As you have questions, I'd like you to put them in that Q&A tab. There's a Q&A button on your Zoom menu. So the top of your screen, maybe the bottom of your screen, it says Q&A. Just hit that, enter your question in there as you're thinking about it while it's fresh in your mind. And towards the end of our time together, you see there's a questions section there. We'll spend some time and answer as many of those questions as we can. If we don't get to them all, we know who you are and we know what you asked, and we will get back to you at a later time. We'll do our best to answer them. So what's going on in the auto industries? Why would we go down this route of automating documents for a car dealer? Well, there's a lot of issues, right? So in most industries, people think that time working with paper documents or processing paperwork is just a cost of doing business. In some cases, that's true. But in most cases, we can simplify common tasks and streamline the process. The net result is to give you back time every single day. And that's something we certainly don't have enough of, is time. So the statistics you see on the screen here, like $120 to find a misfiled document, that's focusing on time it takes to hunt down something that was in the wrong folder, in the wrong filing cabinet, stuck on someone's desk, or maybe you scanned it and you put it in a Windows folder on a server. You didn't name it right, or it got the drag and drop into a wrong folder. It happens all the time to companies big and small, in about every industry you can think of. Very, very common process. And it is that cost of doing business we can help to resolve. Another cost include complying with a subpoena. Unfortunately, fact of life. Or supporting an external audit. Everybody can be audited. Then there's the cost of storing the documents. If you go to third party, like an Iron Mountain kind of storage place, those have a cost associated with that. Or you've got square footage in your dealership that could be better used for something else. You can recoup some of that. Lastly is the one here talking about federal regulatory compliance. Now, that's not unique to only the auto industry, but that is something that's a little bit different, right? So the organization listed here, that Center for Automotive Research, they have statistics that say that over 20% of the average dealership's before tax net profits, hard to say, goes to complying with those regulatories. In other words, we're taking out a lot of the profit pre-tax, right, to comply with that. Some of that is associated with documentation, and that is something we can help with. All right, so we can start to streamline a lot of that process with the paperwork and make it easier to comply with the federal government. By the way, that is only for the federal regulatory compliance. There may be state and local depending on where you're located. Something to think about there. So there's definitely not a shortage of documents to deal with. You know, in this webinar, we're going to be focused on two departments within automotive industry, right? We're going to talk about the sales department, where each month they generate what they call a deal jacket. That is the paperwork from leasing a vehicle or selling a vehicle. All of them include very private information known as personal identifiable information, or PII, that needs to be kept in a secure manner, and it needs to comply with a retention schedule that enforces how long you keep that document. That is actually listed in the previous screen if you're paying attention. The second department we're going to focus on is the service department, where nearly 300 million repair orders are created each year in the US alone. By the way, the solution is applicable in Canada if you're watching this from the Great White North. So let's just talk about that repair process. And most of the people on this webinar likely own a vehicle. Okay, so you've taken it in for repair. So you come into the dealership and you talk to us. I think a service advisor is the role that person has, and you bring in your car, right? So you bring in your Tesla, or you bring in your Mercedes or your GMC truck, whatever you got, and they walk around and inspect the car, and they talk to you about why you're there. Now, they know why you're there because you made the appointment, but something may have come up that isn't on the appointment paperwork. You come in for an oil change. Oh, by the way, I got this weird rattle coming from the back end now. Okay. So they would document all of that, print out your repair order, and you're going to sign and initial that order. So you've now signed the document once, an initial that they can give you a verbal estimate or something like that. Hours later, you come back to pick up your vehicle, right? You come back to pick up your Mercedes or whatever you've got. And now the paperwork has grown. Now you've got many, many pages. There's the inspection of the vehicle, the report that your tires are good, that your brakes are good, and so on. And then ultimately the charge. There's always a charge. Even if it's under warranty, there's still a charge. They're going to bill back the manufacturer, Honda or Ford or whoever that is. And if it's not under the Ford warranty or the Chevy warranty, it might be under a third-party warranty. Well, they're going to bill that company. You're going to pay your deductible on that. Then there's the whole recall process. And that too, again, billed back to manufacturer. So that paperwork isn't just for kicks and giggles, right? It's meant to support a process downstream. So you go into the office, or you go into the dealership, you pick up your Tesla or your Chevy or whatever you got, and you sign it. Maybe you pay for it. Maybe it's a warranty thing. What happens to that document? Give me a file in the filing cabinet, right? They probably have a row of filing cabinets down the wall. At least they do at a dealership near me. That those big lateral files, right, going down the wall, and they're going to shove it in there. And somewhere down the road, someone's going to need that document because they have to bill back GMC. I have a GMC truck, so let's use that as an example. They're going to bill back GMC for the recall that I just had done on my truck about a month ago. So they're going to need that document. Let's hope it's not misfiled, right? Now, they typed all this information into something, right? Yep, they typed it into CDK or Dealer Track or Reynolds. We're going to talk about that, but that's the area where we're going to help. We're going to help with that sales area. We're going to help with that service area and all the documentation around it. Now, that being said, we are not just a focus on the car dealers. If you've known us for a while, you know we do really great work with things like vendor invoices, contract management, human resources, inventory documents. It just keeps going and going and going. Today, we're focused on two areas, service and sales. But if you move forward with this solution, we can work on all those other departments we talked about. So we'll get to that here in a minute, but let's go ahead and move on. By the way, I'm seeing questions come in. Thank you very much for asking your questions. I won't see those until the end of our presentation. As those come up, fresh in your mind, pop them in the Q&A. All right, moving forward. So how do you know when it's time to really look at this solution? How do you know when to start? Well, you must have a suspicion that you need to look at this because you're here. Good for you. Other areas to focus on is really I'd have you look at your staff. Are you paying a lot of overtime? Are they working long hours? Maybe you don't have overtime. Maybe there are a bunch of salary staff, so you're not paying overtime, but your staff getting burnout? Is this are they getting wore out on their day-to-day process? It's hard to replace staff today, so we need to keep them engaged. We need to keep them in the organization. We need to help simplify, those common tasks we're talking about and help them do their job, right? Help give them the good part of their job back so that the frustrating stuff they can, maybe we can automate a lot of that. Other areas to look at is, stacks of paper everywhere, filing cabinets coming out of your ears, and hard to find stuff. Or you're starting to see invoices for third-party storage, or your printing cost is going through the roof, or you've got to pay for more legal fees and accountants to support the audit of the subpoenas and so on. You get the idea, right? These are all key indicators that there's probably a better way. Good for you, there is, and we're going to show you a lot of that today. So those are some of the areas to think about if you are in a car dealership. If you're the service manager or the GM at a Hyundai dealership or something like that, these are things to start looking for. All right, now I've mentioned a dealer management system a couple of times. I said the words CDK, Reynolds and Reynolds, Dealer Track, and the last one I didn't say was AutoSoft. Those are the big areas, the big four software companies that we see in the automotive industry. Okay, so are you running one of these? Probably so. Maybe you're running something else. That's okay. We can work with anything, really, but we can absolutely work with the documents that are generated from these systems. By the way, if you think of ADP, ADP is now known as CDK, or at least I'm not sure if they sold that part of the business off. I don't really know that story, but CDK is what we see in the market. We don't see the word ADP very often. But those are the big four software companies that run the dealership. That's what schedules the appointments. That's what places the orders for parts, things like that. That's your car inventory. That's there. Now, we get asked often, why not simply scan our documents into that? Why not scan it in the dealer track? Well, you could, but they are a dealer management system, not a document management system. They're not going to be able to give you all the tools that we offer, and we can work alongside them. So the system we're presenting today, the solution that we have to offer and we bring to market is designed to work alongside these systems. And it doesn't matter which one of those you have. So let me show you what that might look like. So we're going to pretend we're working in CDK. Now, I don't have a license of CDK. I don't work at a car dealership, but this is a screenshot that I took from the internet, because everything's on the internet. And it is CDK, from the best of my knowledge. So here we're looking at a CDK screen, and you're looking at a repair order within their system. Now, let's say I want to go find the actual repair order where Jenny Murray has signed the repair order, right? She signed this. She's claiming that she didn't sign this and didn't approve the work, but we know she approved the work. I need to see the documentation. So rather than go to the filing cabinet and hope that I find it, or maybe it's on Steve's desk, or maybe it's on Scott's desk, right? Because they didn't file it away, possible. All I've got to do is hover over the relevant information and click a button. So in this screen, you see I'm hovering over the repair order number. That's a 146790. And I'm going to hit the control button on my keyboard, and I'm going to left mouse click that value, 146790. That's it. Control click. And when I do that, Global Search Cloud is going to authenticate me if I'm not already logged into the system. And it's going to say, hey, I found one repair order. Now, if there were many repair orders to that number, it showed me all of them. Here, there's one repair order. All I had to do was control left mouse click. That's so easy. By the way, if you're afraid of the control button, if you don't want to use a control button, don't use it. You can change that hotkey to be something else. It could be shift left click or whatever you want to do. It's ultimately configurable for your environment. I like control left click. I'm not sure if that's the default, but that's the way I got it. So control click, I now see this record. Jenny Murray, I got my RO number or invoice number. I've got my data service, my VIN. Man, this is great. What about the document? Well, if I double click that row, I see the document. This is fantastic. And I could scroll down and see Jenny's signature. Now we're talking, right? Okay, so we can see these documents. We can find them from CDK or DealerTrack or Reynolds or whatever you're using. I mean, I just did it from a screenshot, right? And bring back the relevant supporting documents without leaving my workstation, without going and finding out that it's not filed away because Scott didn't put it away correctly. And Scott's a good sport, so he's laughing as I say his name. And we can deal with the customer while we have her on the phone. We're going to provide better customer service. Like, no, I'm looking at it right now. I can email this to you if you want, but I see the document immediately. That's pretty powerful. Now, that was a CDK presentation, right? What if you don't use CDK? Well, that's all right. Our system is configured out of box to work with CDK, Reynolds, and DealerTrack. So if you've got one of those, high fives. We're going to move forward. Now, here you see 3 different templates, right? 3 different examples. That's a better word. And where we've highlighted, we're going to pull the information off of there. Now, those 5 fields are generally the repair order number, the client name, the stock number, the date of service, and the vehicle identification number. I threw that one out there last. Now, that's just for the service department. I'm going to talk about the sales department in just a moment. But just for the service department, again, 300 million repair orders annually. Wow. Those are the 5 fields that we start with. What if you don't use stock number? No, we just take that field out. No big deal. What if you want location because you have 5 dealerships spread across the county and you want to know where the work was done? No problem. We can add location into that. Ultimately, we're going to configure the system to work the way you need it to work, not try to force you in the way that we think you should work. We configure to you. You don't have to comply to us, right? So the system is meant to make your life easier and give you back time every day, not make you have to learn a brand new system all over again. I control-clicked and found the documents. I mean, it's like 10 seconds. Boom, there it is. So those are the 5 fields we look at. I want to talk about vehicle identification or VIN for a moment. Now, here's a picture of a pretty cool car that I wish was in my garage. But, you know, we're talking about all those different places where the VIN can be found. What's really relevant is what we do with that value, that vehicle identification number. We pull that off of the document. And then we make sure the VIN is actually a real VIN, not just a random mash of the keyboards, right? Is that a proper VIN? Now, I won't get into how we do that. Nobody wants to know how sausage is made, right? So just know that we use capture intelligence to ensure that's a real VIN and it's not incorrect. Why is that important? Well, we're talking about scans. We print a document off. We get the wet signature when you're picking up the Tesla, right? Or the Mercedes or whatever. And then we're scanning that in. So since we're talking about a scan, since we're talking about that paper document, there is something, you know, we're going to OCR that. We're going to make that scan legible to the computer. Well, there is OCR error that could happen, especially if there's a smudge, right? You're going to see that live in the demo here in just a moment, where it's going to cause a problem for us, right? So you'll see, what does a user do with it? Now, the other thing we do with that vehicle identification number is we will make sure it matches on all the following pages. So remember my story. We have we come into the dealership, we sign off that they're going to fix, you know, my GMC truck. I come back days later, hours, hopefully not days later, hours later to pick up my truck. And now I went from 1 or 2 pages to 10 pages. Well, the VIN is on nearly every page. So we're going to make sure it matches so many times in the following pages. That really, let's boil that down. I got a little technical there. So what does that really mean? We validate the VIN is actually a real VIN, and then we make sure it matches on pages. And if not, we present it to the user and say, we don't think we have this right. So the user doesn't have to look at every single document unless they want to. And if they do, that's fine. And if not, they can just validate the ones that have problems. All right. By the way, again, you get to choose what those fields are. But when we move into the sales department, we collect a completely different set of values. In fact, it's time to move to the live demo, right? This is not death by PowerPoint. So let's go look at what the software can do. And we will start with the sales department. So I'm going to end this slideshow and I'm going to come back to global search. All right, let me refresh this. So I'll make sure my license didn't time out. And here we are in global search. Now, we're really we're in Google Chrome, right? Most of our clients access their data through a browser. So very easy. Everybody knows how to use a modern browser. You're talking about Google Chrome. In my example, I'm actually even running this on a Mac. Could be Microsoft Edge on a Windows PC. Really doesn't matter. As long as it's a modern browser, we're happy. And I'm in global search. Now, I have security turned off for demonstration purposes, which is a terrible idea for production, but for demo, that's what we want to do. And I'm in the Deal Jackets archive. Archive is how these different archives is how we start to segregate the data. That's how we know where these fields go, who has access to the archive, and what can they do when they get there. So if you're looking at the sales department, you want to make sure only the proper people have access to get to that. Remember, personal identifiable information. That's really important for us to lock that down. Okay, you have a world of trouble if you don't do that. All right, now, here we see that Ben Franklin bought a Silverado. I can see Ben Franklin rocking out a Chevy truck. And we have all that information. Ron Popeil sold it to him. You know, if you remember who Ron is, that means you have a hard time sleeping at night, just like me. And I could come in here and search and find all of my records. Now, let's say we work for an Infiniti dealership, right? Let's just pretend for a minute. We work for an Infiniti dealership, but we sell used cars too. I mean, we sell Chevy trucks and whatever. If I want to search just the Infinitis, I can do that by just breaking down, go look for the Infinitis. So a custom search, we would help configure that for you. Or maybe I just want to see sales only this year, or I want to just look for anything. You know, I want to see what Tommy Boy has sold. So if I just come in here and type in the word Tommy, it's going to come back and find what has Tommy Boy sold. Tommy Boy sold Sam Adams a Corvette. All right, now, how do we know that? Well, here we have these index fields, right? Again, customized for what your client, what you, the car dealer, you're going to tell us what you want these fields to be. If you don't want salesperson on there and don't want to hunt down what Tommy Boy sold, that's fine. Doesn't matter. You want to add in something else, that's fine too. The fields that we think are really, really important is the date of the document or the date of the sale. Remember retention schedule, right? You are going to want that VIN because that VIN is going to follow that vehicle forever and ever and ever. It doesn't matter who owns it. The VIN stays with the vehicle. All right. And you're probably going to want the customer name. So you're going to go back and see all the vehicles that Sam Adams has sold. You want to be able to go look for that. All right. Again, you might want location. You know, maybe you've got 5 locations scattered across a couple of counties. That's fine. Let's go look for everything in Massillon, Ohio, where I live, right? Or let's go look for everything in New Haven, Connecticut, where our office is. No problem. We can do that. Now, if I double click on that row, I'm going to open that document. And we're going to see all the supporting documents for Sam's Corvette, right? Sam's rocking out a Corvette. And we're going to see the VINs here, how many miles are on it, you know, the model. If we scroll down through here, we're going to be able to see his credit app. I'm sure he's got pretty good credit. Here's the odometer statement. I'm going to talk about odometer statements towards the end of this presentation as well. But you get the idea. You can come in now and consume the documents. I might want to highlight something. So I could highlight something. Easy peasy. I might want to go back to page 1. No, page 2 is a credit app. I may want to come in here and redact out like a social security number. Okay, I may want to come in here and redact out some value, and then I'm going to email this to my boss, or I'm going to print this. When I print it, I'll say print with annotations. So that means that black is on there. Okay. Now, did I damage the document? No. If I have permission, I can go ahead and just, delete that or move it around or whatever. It's still there. But when I printed that out, it's going to print that black right on top of it. I could also put a sticky note in there too, right? If I want to slap a sticky note in there that, just like you have a Post-it note on paper, I could put a Post-it note here, or anything like that you want. So basically, as you go down through these documents, you can consume the documents, find them instantly, and do what you will with the documents. Now, often we get asked, that's cool. How do you get documents in there? There's a couple ways. If you have a preset sales breakdown, we're not going to show you one of those today, but if you have a preset sales breakdown, we can easily train the software to recognize that it's Sam Adams and his Corvette, and this is where I'm going to find the value for the VIN, and the salesperson's Tommy, right? No big deal. If you don't, if your deal jackets are varying examples, lots of different styles, we could give you the ability to generate a barcode. So here you've got today's date, my name, Keith Snyder. I put a VIN in there, stock number, Mercedes AMG GT. That's one of those two-door super fast cars. I really want one of those. The 2022 model, and Tommy Boy is selling it for me today. Now, these are the fields we just saw here. These match. Well, what do we do with this? Well, what we would do is generate a cover sheet. So at this point, I'm going to print that out, slap it on top of the deal jacket. Hopefully, I took out all the staples and paper clips and whatnot, and I'm going to scan it in. Eventually, you got to scan it in, right? We got to go through a scanner. Now, it might be a dedicated scanner for the service department. Maybe you've got a couple dedicated scanners for the, I said service department. Sorry, let me back up. It could be a dedicated scanner for the sales department. It could be a copier that also scans for the service department. I'm a big fan of dedicated scanners for high volume environments. Definitely going to want dedicated scanners for the service department. Remember those millions and millions of pages, right? Now that's across the country, but we're still talking about a lot of pages every single day flowing through that service department. So that's, maybe dedicated scanner is a way to go. And we're hardware agnostic. You want to use a Kodak, use a Kodak. You want to use an Epson, use an Epson. That's great. There's lots of brands out there, and you know what I'm talking about. But if you want to use a copier, you can. I caution you, some of these documents may be 8.5 by 22 inches long. It's a really weird format, right? But as long as the machine will do that, you're good to go. Now, we would scan that barcode cover sheet on top of all of our pages. We would delete the barcode cover sheet as we're putting it away. You don't need that. You just need the content of Ben Franklin's Silverado. Okay? Very, very simple. That is one of the ways we can get the documents into global search, right? Or we could use a template to recognize all those values if you have a formatted deal summary sheet. Many of you do, not everyone, believe it or not. So what about the service department? Well, here in the service department, we have different fields. So here we're seeing all these customer names and the invoice number, which is also the repair order number. The RO is when you start the process of fixing Steve's Tesla, and the invoice is when you bill back somebody, well, you bill the manufacturer or Steve or whatever. So that's how that works. That's why it says invoice number here. Eventually it will be invoice. As we move forward, these fields, again, are customizable. If I want to double click on one of these, I just easily double click on a row. I now can see the document. Still loading. Now I can see the document. That's a Reynolds and Reynolds document. How do I know that? I've done this demo a few times. I know that's a Reynolds and Reynolds document. So pretty straightforward. It automatically indexed all of this information on the right-hand side, and the VIN passed our check. Good to go. Close that. There's going to be times where we try to get all that information, and for whatever reason, we don't get it all. It might be that the image quality is poor, right? It might be that it's smudged, or the scanner had an issue, something like that. So we will give you the ability to log in. We would have the users log in and see the one that's got a problem. Now, this is not the only thing we scan today. There's lots and lots of documents flowing through the system every single hour, let alone day. This one's got an issue. It's in a validation step. It says validation right here on the right-hand side, and it's yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. When I open that up, it's going to present the user. Keep in mind, we're now in a different product. We're now in Global Capture, but it's still our product. It's still accessing this through Chrome, right? And here, we didn't get customer name. Want to know why? Some Yahoo, that would be me, scribbled over the customer's name. Now, in real world, is someone going to write over the customer's name? Not likely, but it could be, again, the scanner needs clean, really bad quality document. There's grease on it. Who knows? Okay, it is garbage in, garbage out, but you can see here, the only thing we're missing is the customer's name. We got the invoice number, got the data service, VIN, the whole 9 yards. I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to type in Wilco, Brandon L. There we go. I can't type. So that's all I had to do. Now we have the ability to point and click OCR too, if we're missing all those values, but we're not going to get Brandon's name here because, again, somebody took a black Sharpie and wrote over it. There you go. So now when I go ahead and save this, I'm going to say Save and release, it's going to do exactly that. It's going to move on its way. It's now out of my queue. I have nothing here to fix. Everything's beautiful. So we can get this out of our way. And where is that going to end up? It's going to end up in here. Now, I already have Brandon here once. He's going to actually end up in here a second time because I scanned it in more than once. But you get the idea. Now that document is filed away. So the users are going to walk up to this scanner. Maybe it's going to be a couple of scanners in the service department, or maybe it's in the little office after the service department where people swipe their credit cards. Maybe they're going to scan it. They scan the documents in. It's going to process through, automatically index all of this, shove it into Global Search Cloud, and then someone's going to have to deal with exceptions. Not so bad. Pretty painless. I think it's pretty painless. At any rate, from here, again, you can consume the documents. You can print them. You can email them, search for them, the whole 9 yards. And I know we're focused today on sales and service, and I've kind of checked those boxes here, those two departments. But I did mention earlier, what if we have HR documents? Remember, I have security turned off. And so now I can go to HR. You'd never be able to go, well, not likely be able to go from a service department to an HR department, maybe if you're the owner, okay? But here now you can see the system represents itself as storing all your HR documents. Pretty straightforward. All those fields change. We have all these different tabs. I can come in here and search, I want to see all employee files, or I want to find all the I-9 documents for compliance reasons or whatever. But here's something that's kind of cool. I can search the content of those documents. I'm going to come in here and look for the word beach. I promise you the word beach is not in the index field, but if I run a search, you're going to find that some Yahoo named Keith Snyder resigned 2 years ago. Let's open up that document and see what craziness this is all about. If I go look at this, it's an email to it's a letter to my boss saying, hey, I've hit the lottery for $200 million and my wife and I are going to go hang out at the beach. See ya. This is obviously fictitious because I'm still here. And if I hit the $200 million lottery, I'm probably still at the beach. But you get the idea that I can find the content of documents as well. Pretty powerful stuff. Now, you don't have to do HR if you don't want to. We always advise people to kind of start with one department in mind. Stephen Covey once said, start with the end in mind, right? I love that, Stephen. Thank you very much for that quote. It's one of my favorite business books. But you start with service and sales. And then later on, we'll find other ways to use the software. And maybe that's HR, or maybe that's accounts payable or vendor contracts or so on. We got you covered all the way around. All right, now it's time for me to go back to death by PowerPoint. Everyone's sighs and goes, oh, come on. I know. But let's go back to where we left off. Push the button. There we go. That's where we left off. Now, I'll share with you, while most of our clients, or I'd say all of our current clients, are very forward thinking. They want to get away from antiquated paper processes. What's funny is nobody wants to be first. They don't want to be the guinea pig. Well, good news, you're not. We've been there, done that for many car dealerships. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Donnelly Automotive Group. So this is a case study. You can find this on our website, which is square-9.com. We actually have 85 different case studies out there. Yes, I counted them. So in this, you see they reduced their labor by 20%. That's fantastic. The bottom one's my favorite. They curved employee efforts towards customer service and driving sales. Remember, I told you that story, right? Someone called up and, hey, what's going on? And they had instant access to the documents, better customer service, which ultimately meant for them better customer retainment. It's expensive to get new customers. The easiest person to sell to is the one you sold to. Don't lose the customer, right? So this is a great example on where we helped them cut costs, gave them back minutes of every single day, and helped them drive better customer service, which is better customer retainment, which ultimately is more sales. That is the gift that just keeps on giving. You got to love that. I told you I wasn't going to read all the slides to you, and I haven't so far. But if you want to read this entire case study, which is a really good one, by the way, again, 85 of those on our website. Please hit the site and download those as much as you want. Makes our marketing staff very happy when you use our website. So as we near the end of the webinar, so get your questions in now because we're almost done. I want to share with you a little bit of a bonus round here. We want to help you stop making so much paper. We're talking about digital transformation, not just scan and capture and store, right? Scan, store, retrieve. It's more than that. We want to help you stop making so much paper. Our global forms package is ridiculously powerful and easy to use and easy to configure. Even a sales guy from Ohio, that would be me, can do it. So one of my favorite solutions is W-9 for tax compliance. Everybody on this call, every company in the country has to be compliant to the IRS. Don't play with those people. They don't have a sense of humor. So we want to give you the tool to easily create W-9s. Where do you use those? You need one for every vendor, absolutely every vendor. So if you're a car dealer and you work with, I don't know, a dent guy that comes in, takes out the hail damage off a car, right? Or you deal with Napa Auto Parts, or whatever. You've got these vendors out there, other than GM or Honda or whatnot. You need a W-9 for all of them. That's just one way. Another way is human resources. This is a background check authorization on the right. Sure, you've got your W-4 for taxes, and maybe your payroll department handles that. Great. They're not doing your background checks. They're not doing your drug screen results. They're not doing all the other papers, documents your HR person definitely needs. And they keep, you hire somebody new, they show up to an inch and a half stack of paper to fill out. What if when you hired them, you sent them an email and said, hey, before you show up, fill these out? They can fill them out from their phone. I'll tell you, Steve Young's our CEO, and many of you on this call know Steve, great guy. And I'm not saying that because he approves my expense reports, although he does. He had a great idea today that I love this idea. How about an odometer reading form? Someone goes out into the vehicle with a mobile device, that's an iPhone, right? That's an Android tablet, whatever. And they not only document the odometer reading of the vehicle you're trading in, they could take a picture with the form of the dashboard. So they're typing in what the value is and then documenting this is it. So you have both, right? Very powerful ways to stop making so much paper. We believe so much in digital transformation that Global Forms is included in the subscription for this Auto Essentials package that we're talking about today. You get 2 Global Forms, 2 licenses. Let me say that differently. A license for 2 active forms in your system. Do they have to be W-9 and HR? No, it's whatever you want. We actually have a library of at least 50 different forms. I didn't count those, but I think it's north of 50 forms that you can use at your will. You could look in there and go, hey, here's a drug screen result one. I want that one. And you could have one of our authorized trained resellers implement that for you. You could have Square 9 implement that for you. Or better yet, go through training, do it yourself. We offer training to all of our clients at no additional cost. So we're really serious about digital transformation, so much so that we want you using our software to create less paper. It's really important. Okay, so now let's move on to the question and answer section. Hopefully you've been adding in lots and lots and lots of questions, and my associate Nick's going to help me out with this. So here's one. We're talking about full dealerships today. Will this also work for service-only businesses, car, truck, RV service centers? Sure, and why not motorcycles? They have VINs. An RV has a VIN, a motorcycle has a VIN. I would assume a boat in the United States has a VIN. I'm not really sure about the boat, but let's just work with that. All of these things have the same kind of problem. If they don't have one of those big brands on the building like Infiniti or Toyota or whatnot, they may not be running CDK or DealerTrack or something like that. That's okay. We can configure or train the system to recognize their documents. Not a big deal. All right. How many fields are you able to set up in search? Well, how many do you want? I don't think there's an actual limit, a real limit, but eventually you're going to have too many fields on the screen and it'll be a little overwhelming to the user, right? So you don't want to have, 37 different fields, but that 5 is where most people are really comfortable. Can you do more than 5? Sure, absolutely. But just think about that user interface, that experience as you go down that route, all right? Can we tell who scanned the document that has the problem? Yep, I didn't show you that, but we can capture the user if you wish, not a problem. Can you only have 2 forms in the basic package? Yes, we include 2 active forms. By the way, that cover sheet generator for the deal jacket, that doesn't count. We weren't talking about that one. But so that's that one, plus you'd have like the W-9, the odometer thing that Steve thought of. I really like that idea. I'm gonna have to build that. But what if you want more than 2 forms? You can license as many as you want. You can invest and say, you know what, I want 10. I want 27. That's fine. Go to 27. That's not a problem. You can add forms as needed. You can also add more users. Maybe you start off with just 3 concurrent users. Fantastic. What happens when, the 4th person wants in there? Well, it's 3 people at one time. So you might have 3 licenses, 3 users. That's our minimum. You don't have to start with 3. You could start with 27 if you wanted to. But let's say you started with 3 people at one time. You could license that or have 10 people have login IDs, but only 3 are going to get in at one time. So when that 4th one or 5th one needs to add in, you just upgrade along the way. Not a problem. All right, let's see. How are we doing on questions? We knocked out a bunch of these. All right, someone's asking about retention. Do I mean holding that paper in a length of year? Yep, that's what I meant, is how long are you hanging on to that paper document? If you scan it in, and then you can hang on to that scan instead of the paper. Okay, most industries allow you to do that. Now, I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, but yes, you can retain the digital version and get rid of the hard copy. You have a view-only client. Yes, we have. So let's back up. The way I showed you the software, global search, I could do everything. I had security turned off, right? It was mass chaos. Keith can do whatever he wants. You'd not have that in production. You would have that the folks in service only see service. The people in parts probably only see parts. HR only sees HR. Accounting only sees accounting. Maybe executives see everything. That's fine. You can also control who can do what with those documents once they're there. You don't want to give Keith the ability to delete stuff. That might be bad, right? But give me the ability to print, for example. So we can get very granular on what folks can do once they get in there. And then yes, we have a view-only license. If you want someone to be able to just search and view, and that's it, that's fine. We can do that. And that's good for auditors, by the way. Other questions we get often is, do I have to print the file? Technically, you could print the PDF, but you want the wet signature. Every automotive dealership I've ever talked to, they want that wet signature. They want to make sure that Jenny signed the paper, that Phil picked up his Ford F-150 Lightning and he signed off that his brakes are good. Okay, fantastic. So that's why we're actually capturing the documents at the end of the process, right? Probably in that office where they're going in, swiping their credit card and going on their merry way. Now, if you, again, you could use a copier. I'm a big fan of a dedicated scanner, especially for medium to high volume. If you have something else, like, I use an app on my phone to capture scans. You can, but I would test that because that, my iPhone 12 is a gajillion pixels. It's going to make a big file. That's not going to be 300 by 300 DPI. It's going to be a great big file. You're going to start chewing up storage space and run a little slower, but it'll work. So it's a one-off, not doing that in production, it'll work. Okay. Questions we get often is, will this work with multiple locations? Yes. Remember, this is all in the cloud and you access it through a browser. You can work from home. I don't think you can change your oil from home, but if you want to audit the documents from home, you can. All of that stuff gets sent to our production cloud. That gets backed up or snapshot every single day. And you don't have to worry about, is the operating system up to date? Is the Square 9 software up to date? What about the firewall? All of that becomes our problem. By the way, we are a SOC compliant company. I'm going to get to that in my very next time. But all of that, again, becomes our issue and we handle that. We're getting close to the end of our time here. So I just want to touch on just a few more things. Often we get asked the biggest and hardest question. Okay, this is cool. I want to know more. How much? Great question. How much and how fast are things that are a little bit more difficult for us to answer because we don't know how many users you need. You don't know how many locations you have. How much you can scan every single day, week, month? Those are questions we're going to ask. Are you going to only use it in sales and service? What about contracts? So as we go down this route together, if you like what you've seen today, then we're going to ask you to reach back out to us. And then we're going to be asking those types of questions and more. Trust me, many, many more. We're very curious people. Other questions we get asked is, hey, we'll work with DealerTrack. Yes. We'll work with CDK. Yes. Does it work with Reynolds? Yes. And if you have some, what if I don't have any of those? Talk to us. We'll likely be able to make it work with darn near anything. I have not found the system we're not able to recognize the documents from and then present those documents back in that point and click approach I took, which is a tool called Image Exchange, by the way. All right, I think there's no more questions coming in. I appreciate all of you that asked questions. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. In the interest of time, we're going to wrap this up. But again, we will follow up with you and get back to you and answer your questions. Often, as we wrap up webinars or close out meetings, as soon as we get off the Zoom, in this case, or the phone, someone's going to have a question. Oh, I wonder about this. And what about that? Don't keep those questions to yourself. We want you to reach out to our authorized reseller community or reach out to us directly. You can contact sales@square-9.com. That'll get sent to our marketing department. I know it's sales, but it gets sent to our marketing department and they get it to the right person, right? And I thank them for that. Or you can check out our website. There's a ridiculous amount of information on our website. Our marketing department does a great job of putting lots of content out there. I'm a big fan of our YouTube channel, and there's a lot of videos out there. Go check it out. There's a lot of good things out there for you to learn about us, and ultimately just give us a phone call. We're here to help you. I did mention we're a SOC compliant organization. For those of you that don't know what that means we jump through a lot of hoops to secure your data. That is the layman's term, right? We go through a lot of procedures and annual audits. That's very, very fun for our person that has to drive that. It's actually a team that drives that internally to make sure we keep those SOC 1 and 2 compliant pieces. If you've got concerns about our security, we will be happy to have that conversation. With that, we are at the end of our presentation, and I'd like to thank all of you for spending time with us today. Again, if you've got questions, you know where to reach us. It's right there on the screen. And again, thank you very much. This was recorded, so we will send this out. So if you want to share it with an associate, or maybe you're watching the recording because you missed out on the live presentation. Thanks again for your time. Have a great day.